Hello and happy Easter. I want to preface this video by saying that this is not a sermon. Although I have a lot of pastors in my family, and my high school youth pastor and his wife might be surprised to know that because of them I actually wanted to be a youth pastor after I graduated. So Dale and Danelle, surprise. So I had some thoughts this week, and I did research, which everyone knows I love to do research, and I'm really big into history. And I was thinking about the situation we're all in right now, and I was thinking about actually a situation that happened in biblical times. And I took lots of notes, and I have a historical book that I did some research on. So, I'll just read the intro. A week ago, I got to thinking about Joseph, the father of Jesus, the earthly father of Jesus. And I was thinking that there's not a lot written about him, and I wondered why, and it's not noted when he died. Obviously, he was not around for the crucifixion. Mary was, and her sons, her other sons. And I thought, well, that's really weird. But then I started thinking about the people that actually were there. Everyone from the people that put him on trial, the people that ordered the crucifixion, the Mary Magdalene, all of the disciples. And I was thinking, like, what went through their heads during that time? Because in my mind, I think there's some similarities between what I'm going through right now and what they were going. So life is great. You've got this amazing guy, and he is traveling all over. He's spreading love. He's teaching. He's just like amazing, right? Love and joy, wisdom. Everyone is looking up to him. He's got his besties with him, the disciples. They're traveling with him. So he has a little entourage, and his mom and his brothers. And then all of a sudden, bam, he starts getting accused of all these bogus charges. And people are not like, what is going on? But then you've got people that start believing those charges because they're just like lemmings following the herd. But the people that were close to him, like the disciples and Mary Magdalene and his mom, they're like, what is going on? People are hating him for no reason. Then he gets killed, right? Then he gets thrown into this tomb, which is like their version of Fort Knox, right? All of a sudden, someone breaks in, steals the body. Mary Magdalene goes to the tomb, and she's like, great, the door's been busted open. She goes in, he's not even there, right? But get this, the clothes he was buried in are there. So freaky, right? So she runs out, all of a sudden, boom, Jesus is like right in front of her, and she's like, this is not real, this is not happening. Like, what's going on? And he's like, no, it's really me. You have to go and tell everyone. You have to go tell the disciples. And then the disciples get to see him. They're like, you're not real. And he's like, no, touch me. Like, he literally did their version of pinch me. He's like, touch me. I have flesh. I have bones. And they're like, no, you're still not real. This is not happening. And he's like, no, give me something to eat. Like, they give him a piece of fish. He eats the fish. And they're like, wow. Crazy, right? And then they're like, what's going on, right? They have no idea what just happened. They have no idea what's going to happen. They have no idea how long Jesus is going to be with them, when it's going to end. So in my head, I'm like, are they going through things that I'm going through? Like, are they making stuff up to make themselves feel better? Are they taking advice from others about what's going on? How is it getting spread throughout the land that this is going on? You know, all these different, like, I don't know, whatever the newspapers were back in the day, right? This goes on for 40 days. 40 days of this stuff, right? And then all of a sudden, poof, he's gone. They actually literally watch a cloud descend. There's angels there, right? We don't know if Mary and Jesus' brothers were there. They could have been there. They could have been in the upper room. The upper room is where they had the Last Supper. But the people that were there that saw it come down, and all of a sudden, Jesus is gone, right? Like crazy. So then I was wondering, do we have similar confusion and fears? Are our reactions during this the same as their reactions back then? So I decided to look back into history and find out myself, and I actually wanted some advice. So I did a little bit of research on chapters and verses that might help me answer some questions I had. And again, this is not, I'm not preaching, I'm just sharing something that I've been going through for the past 2 weeks and what I've come to a realization for. So in the Old Testament, the book of Job, fun fact, Job was not written by Job, which is crazy, right? It's the words of Job, right? And the men that were counseling him. No one knows who actually wrote the words down for the book of Job. What we do know is whoever it was had access, either written documents or things that he heard or asked. But basically, the book of Job are the men who are counseling him and his reaction to them. So the book, for those that don't know, Job was traveling around, had the worst luck ever. Like if you've ever had one of those days where you stubbed your toe, then you buttoned your shirt wrong, you dropped your fried egg on the floor, you were late for work, like everything kept happening, and you're like, why? Picture that a million times more with Job. Like sickness, sorrow, gut-wrenching crap going on in his life, right? So he's looking to these three guys to kind of counsel him. There's one, his name is Zophar, right? Zophar is chapter 11, right? Okay, so most of chapter 11 is Zophar railing on Job, saying, this is happening to you because of this. This is happening because you did this or you didn't do this, right? And he was asking him some really tough questions, right? Part of that, and I'm going to read 3 verses. In Job 11, 16 through 18 says, and this is really cool. This is a positive thing. You will surely forget your trouble, recalling it only as waters gone by. Life will be brighter than noonday, and darkness will become like morning. You will be secure because there is hope. You will look about you and take your rest in safety. And the musical theater part of me wants to look back at verse 17. Life will be brighter than noonday, and darkness will become like morning. And I'm like, okay, whoever wrote Annie seriously read the book of Job before writing The Sun Will Come Out Tomorrow, I think. Anyhow, as waters gone by, like that is the coolest term ever. I worry about how long this is going to last, right? I worry about what will life be like after all of this. Like, is it going to be the same? Is it going to go back to normal? Is it going to be something that I can't accept? But 2 things I've learned from those 3 verses and really thinking about them are hope and faith. I have to hope that I'll be okay. I have to hope that I will live through this. I have to have the faith that this will be over someday, and I have to have the faith that there are people who care enough and are knowledgeable enough to end this, right? And then I stayed in the Old Testament. One of my favorite books in the Bible is Proverbs. Proverbs, like don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. That, you know, that's a proverb. Proverbs in the Bible is described as a practical book dealing with the art of living. It was written by a group of these guys, like sort of like the think tank of wisdom back in the day, right? But if you think about what Proverbs says, it really is the art of living. It's like a practical guide, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy kind of thing, right? So Solomon wrote, this guy Solomon, he wrote most of the book of Proverbs, right? It's interchanged with a lot of the wise men. Solomon wrote most of it, but in chapter 20, verse 19, I want to read this. A gossip betrays a confidence, So avoid a man who talks too much. A gossip betrays a confidence. So when someone is gossiping to me or I'm gossiping to someone else, they don't have confidence in me anymore because they know what I'm doing is shady and some of it may not be true and I'm hurting someone. So like, no. So I thought, what in my life am I doing that is just like that verse, right? Long Facebook posts, I do that. Sharing posts that are untrue, I've done that. Online rants, I am famous for that. On Twitter especially. I have deleted so many tweets over the years. Politicians on all sides. And people in general, right? Just talking nonsense. Not knowing what to say about this, so we just ramble on. I've done that too. I come home and I talk to Kevin, and Kevin comes home, I'll reiterate something I read that may not have been true, but I'm just like, believing it makes me feel good about myself, right? So do I catch myself doing the same? I do. This is what I want to do from now on. I want to stop gossiping so people are confident in taking me at my word. There are a lot of people in my life in the past that don't have confidence in me anymore. And I think about that a lot. I think back on the times where I did gossip or I did hurt someone, and that stinks, that I'm not ever going to get that back. This is something I learned from my therapist 2 weeks ago, and this verse, seriously, I'm going to tell her about it next week, because this verse speaks to what she said to me. She gave me a challenge. She said, I want you to go to Wegmans. I want you to sit in the parking lot. And she said, when you're walking around Wegmans and you look at people, what are some of the things you think or say? And I said, oh, this is easy. I said, I'll be walking through Wegmans and I'll look at Kevin. I'm like, why is that woman wearing that outfit? Look at those pants. Really? And her challenge to me was, instead of thinking something that is my feeling or opinion about it, or me forming opinion and trying to make someone else believe that or think that way, try stating just a simple fact. So if I'm looking at someone and I'm like, those are ugly pants, can I turn that around and simply say, you know what? That's your opinion. Those are colorful pants, or those are pink pants, or the color of those pants are orange, or that woman has long hair. That woman is pushing a cart. That gentleman is shopping. So I'm going to try to get in the mindset, and I've done that when we're watching TV at night, and I'll say something disparaging about someone on TV, and I'll look at Kevin, and I'll be like, you know what? What I meant to say was, and then I'll just describe something or say something factual. And I think that fits into talking about the statistics or our perceived statistics of COVID-19, in just like saying, oh my God, those people are just stupid for doing that. Okay, now, I did that 2 days ago. I had an unfortunate experience at Turkey Hill, and I posted a completely non-objective rant about the actions and appearance of other people. So that's something I'm going to work on, right? Still in the Old Testament, Hosea 4:6. Hosea was a prophet in the 8th century. And the book of Hosea, so there were a bunch of prophets in the Old Testament, and there's like a whole series. Thinking of it as the Star Trek series. Each one was a little bit different, but they all kind of carry the same theme. They were all written by prophets. Hosea was the first one. So the book of Hosea is talking about God's relation with Israel. Israel at the time, in the 8th century, had turned away from God. They weren't acknowledging him anymore, okay? They were listening to different things and forming different things and going in a different direction. No one knew why, but they were just following the other, right? He was told by God to marry an adulterous woman. Like, and it doesn't say whether she was adulterous before or after. It does say that they had children together. And by the way, her name was Gomer. Gomer, for real. Read your Bible. So he marries this woman. His next challenge or charge from God is to forgive her, acknowledge her, so that she can reform. And then he's charged with, now that you've done that, now that you understand that concept, I want you to go into Israel and do the same thing. Israel has turned their back on God. They're doing their own thing, right? So the verse is Hosea seeing the problem to do what God is not acknowledging, right? Action equals consequence. Hosea in book 4, it's the charge against Israel. Verse 6. Part of this, well, let me do this first. Verse 6, my people are destroyed from lack of knowledge. Because you have rejected knowledge, I will also reject you. Then it goes on to say, as my priest, because you have ignored the laws of your God, I will ignore your children. But the first part of that, people are destroyed by the lack of knowledge. And because you have rejected whatever knowledge you got, I'm going to reject you. Goes both ways. Your actions have consequences. So what I wrote down is what I got from that. Do not reject the facts. And where are you getting your info from? So my challenge to myself going forward is when I hear an actual factual statement, whether I like it or not, whether it makes me feel good or bad, I'm going to acknowledge that's a fact. Like, that's something that happened. I'm not going to let it dishearten me. I'm not going to get panicky about it anymore. I'm just going to say, it's a fact. I acknowledge it, right? And I'm really going to start taking a look at where I'm getting my information from. Am I looking at the CDC website? Or am I going to news stations that are maybe sensationalizing everything? Or profiting from, the sickness? So that's what I want to do. The same way as the people, when Jesus came back from the dead, was Jesus really risen? Was Mary lying? Is that really Jesus in the flesh? I mean, all those things. So that's what I want to avoid, right? And the last verse I looked up, and I actually learned a lot looking at this book, which I hadn't really studied much. But this is the last one. The book of Ephesians. Sorry, I had to pause. The book of Ephesians, chapter 4, verse 29, is the one that I looked at. Now, Paul spent 3 years in the city of Ephesus. Ephesus was what is now Turkey, okay? Ephesus was on the, right on this river that flowed into the Aegean Sea. So it was like the commercial center of the land. Like, everything happened in Ephesus. It was huge. I mean, like, trading and marketing and selling and ships coming and going. It was insane, right? Also the home of where they worshiped the Roman goddess Diana, or the Greek Artemis. Paul, for 3 years, was a missionary there, right? So he went, didn't call it a missionary back then, but that's what he was doing. He was an evangelist. The book of Ephesians is a letter, okay? And it's written to the people of Ephesus, giving them the steps towards salvation, right? But it was mostly about unity, about keeping together, about doing things together. We need to get back to God. We need to believe. So verse 29 in Ephesians chapter 4 says, do not let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouths, but only what is helpful for building others up, according to their needs, that it may be benefit to those who listen. So do not let any unwholesome talk, don't talk anything that's not good, right? Only say things that are helpful for others and is going to build them up. So I think if Paul was writing us a letter today to the entire world, he would be saying, you all need to come together to survive COVID-19, right? Me personally, what I'm going to take away from this is whatever I say going forward going to divide the people that hear it or the people that read it, or is it going to bring people together? Is it going to be helpful? Is it going to build someone up? Also, do I really listen to people that put others down and that have different thoughts, and do I like take that as fact, right? I'm gonna find the one thing inside me that benefits others. We're all different, we're all diverse. We all have different gifts that we can give each other. But I think a lot of times we ignore it because we think, well, no one's really gonna want this, you know? And sometimes we look at others that have a gift, but we're not seeing it, right? They have something that can build us and benefit us up. So I think, you know, going forward, we really need to figure out what's in each of us that we can give each other to help us through this. It's just my thought. So you've got the arrest, the trial, the crucifixion, the burial, the disappearance, the reappearance. You've got 40 days of what is going on. You've got the ascension. You've got the 11 disciples, Mary, the Mother Mary, the brothers. And I wrote down, how did they make it through all of that? And then I also wrote down, how will I make it through all of that? So I wrote an action plan, and this I am actually going to either tape up on the fridge or keep with me at all times, or maybe just read it every morning as kind of an affirmation. So my action plan is, I will have the hope and faith of Job, trusting that I will someday look back on this as waters gone by, and looking forward to the day that I can finally say to, you know, maybe my grandnephews or great-grandnephews and nieces, you will not believe what we went through, but we made it through it based on hope and faith. I will listen to the facts only. I will not assume or blindly believe. Before passing on any info, I'm going to verify that it is true, right? That is my new art of living. That's my practical guide to the art of living for myself. I'm not going to hide from the facts. I'm not going to ignore the CDC advice or the government orders. I'm not going to have any doubt. If the government tells me to do something or the CDC tells me to do something, I'm doing it. I'm going to accept it and do it. I'm going to find ways that I can help to unite and not divide. And I'm going to accept the help that others give me. That's what I want to do. So I'm going to have hope. I'm going to have faith. I'm going to have belief. I'm going to have awareness. And I'm going to have unity. So I really am going to trust that that's going to get me through it. And I just wanted to share that with everyone today on Easter, because I hope that that gets you all through. So thank you, and thanks for letting me talk, and have a happy Easter.